name is Jewel Elizabeth, and I am the creator of Rock Solid Pilates and Rock Solid Yoga, and also just debuted an online yoga teacher training program called Become Yoga School. And I live in New York City, which means I am currently teaching 100% online. In the past, I've worked at Equinox, and I was a mentorship creator there and a manager there. And then I also opened Fit House in New York City. And for the past couple of years, I've been working at Neo U digital platform, and also Daily Burn and New York Health and Racket Club. But as of right now, I've moved everything onto my own online platform where I teach 5 classes a week, 3 Pilates and 2 yoga. And it's been really fun to kind of like learn this digital age and figure out how to cue people completely through verbs and talking to them and looking at a camera. But one thing, I've really talked with my members and my students about is that it really feels like we've created this community and we've kind of overcompensated for the digital aspect of it. And now, we had someone last week who had an impromptu elopement, and we could all celebrate her. And then suddenly we were like, oh, today's yoga class is your bachelorette yoga because you're getting married in 4 hours. And it's really been fun to kind of create this community, even though we are all talking online through a camera. Yeah, so I have a pretty typical story, I think. I grew up as a dancer, and when you grow up dancing, you start teaching actually as a teenager. There's like a little bit of a ladder to work your way up, and you usually start as an assistant around 14 years old, somewhere around there, and you start teaching classes. And then usually by the time you're 17 or 18, you are allowed to teach your own classes on your own. And then I went to school for dance, so all through college, I actually taught 1 day per week. Different age groups from like 5 to 18. Also, I ran a few competition teams and stuff like that. So you really grew up teaching in the dance community. And then when I moved to New York, I was actually auditioning as a dancer and getting myself out there. And I became someone's assistant at Broadway Dance Center. And this is usually the person that they have come to the front of the room, lead the warm-up, etc. And she was actually the person who told me, hey, have you ever taught at gyms? Have you ever taught at fitness studios? And I said, no, I'm still teaching dance for kids. So it means I'm driving out to the suburbs, taking the train 4 days a week. And she told me that you could do this thing called dance cardio, where you teach adults. You don't have to deal with costumes. You don't have to deal with parents. You do have to make up some choreography, but it's a little more basic because these are what we call regular people and not professional dancers. And a lot of times in New York City, you can get paid better to teach in gyms and fitness studios than you could in dance studios. So that's really my segue into fitness. And then from there, I just fell in love. And within my first year, one of my mentors told me, you'd be really great at Pilates. You have a really good eye for anatomy, and you're really good at cueing. So why don't you dip your toe in the Pilates pool? And then from there, I just got every certification under the sun. So it was really fun. Once you get into fitness, it's really rewarding because as opposed to teaching children or teaching in studio where the big goal is to get to the concert or the competition or the recital, with fitness, it's a daily activity. And this cardio dance makes you smarter. This Pilates class gives you better coordination. All of these opportunities are ways to reduce stress. So you know that you can really make a daily impact on people's lives. My favorite parts about the fitness industry is definitely being able to make a daily healthy impact on my students, on my members, and making sure that I am keeping them healthy, because without your health, you're nothing, right? There are some struggles. It is not the easiest job in the world. And, I always say, like, we're missing the water cooler aspect. You very rarely can be in the same space at the same time. But I also think that's why it's really good to create community amongst your members and also with your colleagues. Places like Glow Trainers, it's a way that we can kind of have that water cooler, if you will, without being in the same physical space at the same time. Great question. Some of the daily struggles we have, things have changed a lot this year. So I think a lot of the struggles we had before have kind of come up with solutions on their own. I think it's really hard anytime you're a freelancer or someone who works for certain contracted hourly pay. It's really hard to set up boundaries and to give yourself break days or weekends. I remember back in the day when I was teaching 22 classes a week, I missed weddings, I missed different graduations, even for programs. My YTT program that I graduated, I was like, oh, I can't take time off to go to this celebratory event that really celebrated 6 months of work. Instead, I have to go make money because I lose this much to do that much. But I think this is true of all freelancers, and you just have to, as much as we preach making our clients healthy, we have to make ourselves healthy. And that includes your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, feeling yourself really well, sleeping enough. So even though you might get a request for a 9 p.m. at night client and a 5 a.m. in the morning client, you have to create those boundaries and say, I can only take one or the other. Or if this wedding's important to me, I'm taking the day off. If this graduation's important to me, I'm taking the day off. Because you could work 7 days a week. And I know people that have. I'm thinking of a person now who works 7 days a week, probably 5 a.m. till 7 or 8 p.m. And I question the quality of life with that schedule. So I think it's really important for us as trainers to create our own boundaries and to prioritize our own health and happiness. Yeah. So I have pivoted a lot, and a lot of my New York friends, we've talked about this because New York has been shut down for almost 7 months now as far as studios go. We finally got private sessions. So if your gyms are open, I think at 25%.
Great.
But that's just people working out on their own, and they have to space out. And then as far as any group training goes, you can only do one-on-ones right now. You can't even have a duet or a trio or a small group. It has to be one-on-one if it's indoors. At this point, outdoors, you can have, I believe, up to 20 people. But again, you have to be spaced 6 feet. I think you still have to wear a mask. So in order for any of us to survive, and not only the financial aspect of it, but just to have mental capacity, right? Because if you're a teacher, if you're a trainer, if you're a giver, to suddenly take that away is like, who am I? What is my existence? So a lot of us have had to pivot online. So I did two things, and I think a lot of my friends did similar stuff. I have worked for a lot of digital platforms and I've created a lot of digital content, but I was always giving that to someone else. And I decided to take it back to myself. Instead of putting their brand at the bottom of my video, I got my own logo and put it at the bottom of my video. So I started teaching, I think in April or May, I started teaching 5 classes per week. And then I did a few IG lives, but most of it was on Zoom. And then a dream I've always had is to create my own teacher training program, because that's a job I've had before. And that's where I have a lot of experience as a hiring manager and knowing specific things you need to be successful in the career, on top of how to do it well, that I think a lot of training programs leave out. They might teach you how to teach, but they don't teach you how to have a career or how to create the opportunity that you want for yourself. So I created my completely online self-paced course with Become Yoga School. So you can do your 200-hour yoga teacher training course without having to give up 6 months of weekends or 5 nights a week. I remember when I did my teacher training program, I actually did an intensive. So I took 30 days off work. I didn't make money for 30 days. And also it was 9 to 5 every day. So I kind of lost my mind. It's a lot of information. There's a reason why they call it an intensive. And I didn't really think it was the best opportunity to learn and to explore as a teacher. So I made a program where you can do it on your own time, anytime. If you want to do it in 30 days as an intensive, we have a timeline for that. If you want to take 90 days to do it, which is a little more traditional, you can do that. I have someone in our program right now who told me up front, she said, I'd like to take a year to do this. Great. So everyone can do it on their own timeline. And it's the same information you would get in the in-person experience, but many of it's on video, and then we have some integrated weekly Zoom calls, so you get that interpersonal reaction and live feedback in time. And these are all projects that I wanted to do probably for 5 or 6 years, that I knew I had the knowledge, I had the experience, I had the resume. But going back to our earlier point about working 7 days a week, when someone is offering you a lot of opportunity and you're running to this neighborhood and running to that client, you often put your, little ideas or dreams on the back burner because they're harder, right? Starting your own business is really hard. We can all agree on that. So I think this downtime gave a lot of us the opportunity opportunity to finally create that dream that we've been thinking of. So for me, it's really been an awesome opportunity to, plant my roots and get my content down, write those chapters, those things that have been in my head, finally put them on paper, produce a video, put it out there in the world. So it's been really, educational, struggle plus for real. There's a lot of uphill battles when you turn to technology and you have always done live in-person events. But, I think at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I finally get to put my dream out there in the world and see what happens. In New York, I definitely think the industry has changed forever, and also just New York in general. New York will be, what we knew as New York a year ago. Mm-hmm. In maybe 5 years, but we've all learned about this digital age. If I think of like Wall Street, real estate, businesses that, technology even, businesses that thought you had to be in a physical space are learning, no, you can still trade from home. You can still write that code from home. You can still organize an office from home.
Yeah.
So I think that has really changed everything. As far as like the globe goes, I think a lot of people have opened up to digital fitness. I will say, as a practitioner myself, before it was forced upon me, I hated doing workouts at home. I hated taking online classes. It didn't really motivate me. But if I think about it now, I only work out at home now. I only take other people's classes or do my own self-practice. I do not miss that getting on the subway for 45 minutes to get to that yoga studio, or running late and getting charged $20 because you missed the class, or trying to get to the 4 o'clock, missing the 4 o'clock and being like, shoot, now I have to sign up for the 5:15. When you're in your home and we've cut down a lot of that commute, it means that we have more access. And one of the great things that I've experienced as a consumer in this time is that now I can take class with all these different instructors who I'd never met. I have 2 studios now in Texas that I regularly take. There is a really great kind of Baptiste funded or Baptiste focused project called Africa Yoga Project, where they take women and men in really rural parts of Africa like Zimbabwe and Namibia, and they teach them how to be yoga instructors. And I've taken those classes. I've never been to Africa. I don't know if I'll ever get to Africa, but I'm able to take class with these African instructors. And then conversely, they're given that opportunity. Is there a yoga studio in their community? No. Is there a lot of opportunity for teacher training programs to come to them? No. Now they have that opportunity where they could be a yoga teacher, learn the practice, learn how to teach all of that. So I think it's been this great kind of globalization of movement and fitness and health, and I'm all for it. Right now, I definitely think there's a trend toward total wellness. Meditation has been really big, different mindfulness programs and restoration programs like fascia stuff, rolling, different tools, stuff like that. I think that HIIT had its heyday and it's great, but people have learned that HIIT actually puts a lot of stress on your cortisol levels, and also it's really great for a certain thing, but then sometimes you're lacking that other thing. So I would say probably about 3 years ago, HIIT was like the #1 thing in America, and now people are learning you don't have to quit that HIIT or that high cardio like marathoners. You don't have to quit it, but you're going to get more longevity in that if you add mindfulness training, yoga, Pilates, Reiki, different modalities like that that can really complement each other. And I think that has definitely become the big trend, that people are looking for a holistic movement and health plan rather than just I do cardio to burn calories, or I do HIIT to gain muscle. I do yoga to create flexibility. People are realizing, no, you have to do it all. And I always bring it back to like regular everyday activities. You would never in your day eat only kale or eat only corn, right? We always say like, eat the rainbow, have a variety. If you eat meat, you're eating beef and fish. If you eat only fish, you're eating different types of fish and seafood. If you eat vegetables, you're eating the rainbow of vegetables. Fitness and wellness is the same. You can't just do high intensity all the time. You need medium intensity and low intensity. It can't just be strength-based powerlifting. You need other things to take care of your joints, your organs, your digestive system, etc. So I think people are really leaning into this holistic wellness lifestyle. Yeah, so a great piece of advice I got when I started out was to find out what's your why. If you question and then answer why you want to do this, what is it, your backstory, your history, your personal kind of desire that made you make this choice? Because I always say in fitness, we could all have much easier your lives. We could get a 9-to-5, a traditional desk job, have more security, have a lot more benefits and stuff like that. But there's something that we're really passionate about that created this opportunity for us and made us say yes to it. And when you discover what that is, you can figure out where your business should go. Like I always say, I've never had children, so pre-postnatal doesn't really resonate with me, but I have a lot of pre and postnatal clients and I see what they've been through. So I know how much it can be a bit debilitating or defeating to not be able to do something you want to do, or to not have control over your body, right? So though I've never been pregnant, I can still identify. I've had moments in my life, like I once broke my lower leg where I wasn't able to work out for, I think that was 3 months, right? So what are the things that, align you with your client, and where can you have empathy for them? And then you can kind of discover your niche, because if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it's really hard to decide what you should do. So that was a really good piece of advice a mentor gave me many years ago that I still, give to others today. That is a brilliant question. I can't think of one specifically now, but I did grow up as a dancer and cheerleader. So anything with a hot beat that's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I used to teach cycling. I don't teach it anymore, but same thing. When I was on the bike, or especially if I'm on a treadmill, which is my least favorite activity to do, and that hot beat drops down, I'm like, go, 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 go. So anything that has like a really rhythmic, like 4 or 8 beat count, definitely keeps me going. And as an instructor, I know to use that in the moment where it's like, hey, we're doing 2 minutes of planks, or really, really hard activities, stuff like that. It's like, get that beat up there, because that drives people, and then you can always bring the tempo down later. So I don't really say cheat meal, because I just try to have a balanced diet at all times. But if I could eat something that's not healthy for me all the time and exist off it and have all my organs and systems work, I could eat French fries all day, every day. If it wouldn't give me scurvy and bad skin and anemia, I would eat fried potatoes, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. But I know to, put that into my diet when it makes sense. If I am having something like that, I'm actually very affected negatively by starchy foods and sugar. So anytime I want like bread, potatoes, or like a cookie, I have to back end that with kale on this side and broccoli on that side, or things don't work really well in my body. And I also hydrate a lot if I'm ever having something really, really starchy. So lately I've really been following Bethany Lyons, who Lyons Den Yoga. Not only I've been an ambassador with her at Athleta. We've worked together at Crunch. I've known her for years, but she also is a fantastic instructor, and she makes fantastic instructors at her studio. She also just segued into her own digital platform. So she's someone I've been going to recently of how do we do this? How do we do that? Because it's newer for me and she has a lot more experience. But also I'm going to take class with her tonight at 5:30. She's just a really inspirational instructor who keeps you accountable. She's always like kind of got, on your toes, but also has your back. She'll never ask you to do too much, but she'll never let you get away with too little. So I really appreciate her energy. As a trainer has always been, for many years, I trademarked Rock Solid Pilates probably about 6 years ago, and we came up with inhale positive, exhale negative, but that has really been my motto for life. I always say this, like if you're standing in line at Starbucks or your local coffee shop and you're getting stressed out, or you're stuck in traffic and you're like, oh, why won't these cars move? You can let that negative exterior affect you, or you could decide, hey, I'm keeping this positive. I'm going to inhale positive right now. Through all of COVID, I keep saying I had a friend who was very sick, and I saw what his family went through during COVID. He got it. He was in the ICU for 95 days. I many days will say, you know what? I have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 lungs. I'm grateful for that. Maybe the traffic's making me mad. Maybe this coffee line is moving too slow, but it's so petty and it's so insignificant. When you're 80 years old, you're not going to remember this aggravation. So why are you giving it to yourself right now? So in those moments, I just think about what is positive in my life, count your blessings, inhale positive, exhale negative.